Welcome to Pass It On, Connecting Soul to Soul, a podcast introducing you to courageous souls. These people are taking their spark in life and passing it on, lighting their corner of the world. I'm your host, Tammy Stuhr, best-selling author, speaker, and CEO of Author My Day, a company inspiring courage. I interview people about how they exercise their courage muscle and use their story to inspire you to live with a courageous heart. Let's get started with today's guest. Welcome to this week's episode of Pass It On, Connecting Soul to Soul. I have with me CJ Scarlet, aka the Badass Grandma. She is a danger expert, survivor advocate, parenting coach, and crime survivor who holds a master's degree in human violence. I didn't even know that existed before I met CJ. Most importantly, Scarlet is a doting grandma of 3 precious grandchildren. She's helped thousands of crime victims when confronted with the simple innocence of her grandchildren. She felt utterly helpless. How to protect them. More importantly, how to teach them to protect themselves. Badass Parenting, an irreverent guide to raising safe, savvy, confident kids, and its PG-rated twin, Heroic Parenting, is Scarlet's way of doing just that, and in the process of helping parents protect their loved ones too. An expert in survivors' rights and advocacy, CJ has given speeches and workshops at national and international events and has appeared on numerous radio and television programs, including MSNBC and NPR. She's also the author of the Badass Girls Guide and Common Strategies to Outwit Predators and Neptune's Gift, Discovering Your Inner Ocean. The former roller skating car hop, forest fighter, and U.S. Marine. Thank you for your service, CJ. U.S. Marine photojournalist, holds an interdisciplinary master's degree in the human violence from the Old Dominion University. Named one of the happy 100 people on the planet, CJ's story is featured in 2 best-selling books, including Happy for No Reason and Be Invincible. So CJ, with that, I have to ask, which restaurant were you a car hop for?
I was a roller skating car hop at Sonic. I don't know if all your listeners are familiar with Sonic, but it's an old-fashioned car hop serving like diner style, but your food is delivered with people on wheels who put it on your window and then you eat right there.
That is so awesome. I love Sonic. Growing up, I loved A&W root beer though, and it was down the street from us, so I could ride my bike and take a quarter and buy this little mini mug. So that's why I had to know. It's like, oh, was she ever one of them that came and served me on roller skates?
Oh, I get media interviews just because of that one little line, the roller skating car hop.
Right. So CJ, where are you joining us from today?
I am just outside of Raleigh, North Carolina.
Very cool. And are you a lifelong North Carolinian or?
No, my dad was also a Marine, and I was born at Camp Pendleton, California, at the Marine base there. And then I was stationed there as an adult, but I lived all over the country. California, New York, Connecticut, Georgia, Virginia, North Carolina, a couple other states, Arkansas.
The military life.
Military life.
Absolutely. My nephew was born at Camp Pendleton.
Really?
Oh, sorry, my niece. My nephew was born in Nebraska, and then his little sister was born at Camp Pendleton when my brother-in-law and sister were stationed out there.
It's beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Awesome area. So, CJ, how did you become the danger expert on keeping our kids safe?
I am a survivor of childhood abuse and 2 teen sexual assaults. And at 19, I narrowly escaped a sex trafficking ring.
Oh, wow.
And I had PTSD severely. I mean, I was a mess. And finally at 30, my whole world came crashing down. It's like my pain became greater than my ability to contain it.
Mm-hmm.
And I suddenly found all the memories came rushing back. I mean, they were always there, but I mean, suddenly they were just like, you're going to deal with this now. So I got into therapy at the local rape crisis center, group and individual counseling, and took my power back. And while I was still in counseling there, they asked me to join the board of directors, and that started my advocacy journey in 1990. And I served as an executive director of a child advocacy center while I was in graduate school. I then became the director of victims issues at the North Carolina Attorney General's office. I became an entrepreneur and started working on technologies that were going to help people keep from becoming victimized in the first place. It got very old dealing with crime after it happened because it was so frustrating. I
Right.
wanted something to keep from happening at all. So like as I said, I became an entrepreneur, and then I started writing my books. In 2008, I wrote Neptune's Gift, which is sort of an inspirational spiritual book. And in 2017, wrote Badass Girl's Guide. 2022, wrote the Badass Parenting and Heroic Parenting. And my brand new book, Raising Badass Kids for Parents of Tweens and Teens, came out in March. And so that was my fifth book. I'm very excited about it.
Oh, very awesome. Very awesome. I'm so glad that you're a writer because so many people might have this knowledge and the way to help people, but you can only help the person in front of you if you don't write. But if you
That's right.
write, you got to help by the thousands instead of one by one.
Yes, and I'm going even bigger than that because I'm now working to turn these books into online courses, one for parents. And because parents tell me they don't know what to say to their kids or how to say it, I'm going to be
Mhm.
doing one for the kids where I speak directly to them and teach them what they need to know to be safe. And I'll be able to reach hundreds of thousands of people by doing it that way. So I'm really, really excited about that. I'll be launching the course probably in the July, August timeframe for the one for parents, and the one for kids will come later in the fall.
Oh, CJ, so needed. I have over 25 years of professional experience in positive youth development. And
Education curriculum writing.
yeah, and when people would come to me, most of the kids, they're wanting their kids to set goals and do this and that, right? It's positive youth development. But the thing that kept them from being successful were some situations that had happened or things that parents were scared of happening, but they, like you said, they didn't have maybe the courage to address that with their young people. Wow. I'm so excited for you. I'm excited for us that we have these resources.
Wait to get started on those videos. That's going to be coming very, very soon.
Good. So when you're writing this book on heroic parenting and putting all this together, you're talking about some big stuff. And when I was reading your book, it talked about you need to be more worried about the people your kids know, like hardly anybody's abducted by a stranger or sexually assaulted by a stranger. It tends to be somebody that they know. So as you're writing these chapters, what are the toughest ones for you to write or address? And how do you find that courage to keep writing about it?
I'm so familiar with the content, but when I got to the chapter on online dangers and started doing the research on that, that was really, really hard because one-on-one crimes are going down. The world is
Okay.
safer today, one-on-one, than it's been since I was a kid in the 60s. Where it's going up dramatically is online. And it's just, and it's only going to get worse in the near future. I think it's like the wild, wild west right now. And it will eventually, I think, settle down in the next 10, 15, 20 years. But for now, it is just a free for all. And kids are being exploited in alarming numbers, and it's very, very dangerous out there. And there's not just content that kids can just stumble upon online. There's predators, 500,000 predators at a time actively looking for kids to groom. And so there's sexting and there's sextortion. And and a really alarming trend that's coming out now is, and I hate to get graphic here, but predators who will force children, who will get children under their control by getting them doing videos of themselves in compromising, dress or positions or whatever, and then use that to extort them and say, if you don't do what I tell you to do, I'm going to show this to your friends. I'm going to put it all over Facebook and mom and dad are going to see it. You're going to lose privileges for life. And now they're making them do these things like torture themselves or animals on camera
Ugh.
while people live stream it. And it's so distracting to me because this could happen to any child in any kind of family. Doesn't matter how good or much of a helicopter parent you are, doesn't matter how much money you make, it doesn't matter what you do, your child is at risk. And so I'm a huge advocate of parental monitoring software, which flags inappropriate or dangerous content so the parents can quickly take action to address it.
Right. And a lot of people listening are probably thinking, well, they just hit the off button. But the off
For
button on the
kids.
computer is very different than the off button up here.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
And the
want to
kids
talk a little
believe what
bit?
they're told. And so, they'll be talking to someone they think is like a 15-year-old boy who's really a 50-year-old dude sitting in his underwear and his recliner with his laptop on eating a bag of Cheetos, and who says, show me something, put on your jammies and take a selfie. It'll be cute. And the next thing you know, it's like, take off your top. It'll be cute. It'll be fun. And then once they've got that first nude or semi partially nude selfie, they've got the kid where they want them. And they just use that and they're selling that information to other predators. And it's such a bad situation. And so, my number one tip for parents is always get that parental monitoring software, because it could literally save your kid's life.
Right, right. So, and I'm assuming your future courses, if they find out that they did send, if they find out their child sent that compromising photo to somebody, will your course also talk about now how do I talk to them in a way that they'll still trust me, even though there's probably some discipline that goes along with that?
Yeah, one of the things I advocate is giving your child a get out of jail free card. And you can
Oh,
do it, from pretty young, from like 8 or 9, and the way that works, I mean, I actually have physical or digital cards you can download and put in a physical card so the kid can keep in their wallet. But if your kid messes up, I mean, kids do stupid shit. They just do. They're kids. And that's their job. Their job is to figure it out by making mistakes. I sure made my share of them. And the get out of jail free card is designed to give them a way to come to you and say, I messed up, or I'm in a situation that's bigger than I can handle, and I need your help. And the get out of jail free part is that's your cue that you are to remain calm. You don't bring the hammer down. It's not that there won't be consequences for what happened. It's just that your job now as a parent is to listen and let them explain and take into account the fact that they're talking to you, number one, which is a lot better than them not talking to you. And number two, it took a tremendous amount of courage for them to do so, and it shows a tremendous amount of maturity for them to do so. And so when you go eventually to figure out what the consequences are, you take those three things into account and say, yes, you messed up, so you lose your online privileges for a month, or you lose whatever for a period of time. But thank you for coming to me, because we want you to be safe and you did the right thing.
So will your online course for kids, like I'm thinking about my grandkids right now, right? This is like so personal at this moment. Um, will the online course also teach the children or the young people to address that and will it teach them to say, I messed up?
Yes, it
Wow.
absolutely will. Because you don't want your kids to not talk to you. You don't want them to go to their equally clueless friends for advice, because they're going to get sketchy advice at best and horrible advice at worst. You want them to feel comfortable coming to you. So a couple of things I recommend in my books and will be in the online courses are to have daily sharing with your child, where for 15 minutes you put down your phone. It's only 15 minutes. You spent longer than that complaining about your neighbor to your coworker today. Put your phone down for 15 minutes and give your kid your undivided attention, and ask questions, open-ended questions that can't be answered with a monosyllabic yes or no. If you say, how was your day, honey? They're going to go fine. And that's it. You got to ask questions. And then also monthly family meetings where you bring the whole family together. And I've got the structure, the agenda, who has what roles and all this other stuff, where you talk about things that the family's addressing. Are you going to move? Are you going to get a puppy? Are you going to where are you going to go on vacation? And the kids take turns with the roles. The parents and kids take turns with the roles. So everybody gets to be the leader sometimes. And you have a talking stick so that nobody's running over each other. And it's really fun, especially if you pair it with a pizza night or something like that. And it's also an opportunity to introduce some of the body safety lessons that I teach, to say, okay, so tonight we're going to talk about, online dangers. Tonight we're going to talk about this. And between the daily sharing and the monthly family meetings, you're creating a stronger bond with your child and giving them the attention they deserve, and giving yourself that attention from them that you are going to miss one day. It goes by
Right.
like that. That we're both grandmas.
Yes.
It
Right.
goes like that.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. When you were talking about taking 15 minutes a day, something that really changed my life as a professional woman, raising a child, was I was listening to a speaker, and I don't remember who it was at this moment, but they said, if you don't have 20 minutes a day for your child, consider adoption. And we're always
Oh,
like, why would we consider adoption? I don't have 20 minutes for the one I have. It's like, oh, give
yeah.
my child up to for adoption to somebody that would take the 20 minutes for them.
Yeah.
And
Make you think.
yeah, and it did. And then that's when it really made me look at that whole idea of I'm too busy for
Mhm.
something. And it's like, if I don't have 15 minutes a day to, and now as an adult parent, respond to my daughter's text, send her back that yes, I got your Snapchat. That was a great thing that happened today. Then it's a key to me to change my lifestyle. And so I love this idea where you're teaching people early on to build that 15 minutes in, because I don't think our job as a parent stops. Are we in their lives as much? Do we see them every day? Do we talk to them every day? Do we text them every day? No, but I don't think it stops, because if you have a child whose child, your grandchild, does one of these things, like, they're gonna need your support. Have you
Yes.
noticed that with grandparents?
Grandparents are all in on this and they want desperately for their kids, the parents of their grandkids, to learn this information and empower their children with this information. There's a difference between being a parent and a grandparent. Parents may think, well, I spend a lot of time with my kid. Well, yeah, but you're getting them ready for school, you're driving them to gymnastics, you're making them do their homework, you're getting them dressed, you're helping find that shoe that they haven't seen in a week, the lost library book. You're doing, and it's a I mean, I remember being a single mom, and it is hard stuff, and you're constantly in it. It's like you're swimming in it. As a grandparent, you're being with your grandchildren. You are kind of above it because you're not fully responsible for them all the time. You can see them as their own individual little beings who have their own individual little past and not a reflection of yourself like you do when you're a parent. And I think that when it comes to child safety, the parents are so busy doing that they forget that they've got to be present with their child in a really meaningful way every single day if they want their kid to trust them and come to them with questions and concerns. And they forget they don't realize how fast it goes. And so life kind of throws them off balance. Whereas the grandparents can see if a child's struggling or, if a child's not getting the attention they need. I wish so much that I could be the one to teach my grandkids what I know, but that's my son and daughter-in-law's job.
Right?
It's hard to step back and let that happen. But the reason grandparents are excited about all this is they can buy the books for their son or daughter. They can get the video courses for their son or daughter and gift them.
What a great gift. What a fantastic gift.
Gift of life safety for the rest of their lives. Yeah.
So as we're talking about grandparents, how did you come up with the title Badass Grandma?
Well, when I had my grand twins, when my grand twins were born in 2015, boy girl grand twins, um, I was not raised around my grandparents for the most part. I only had one grandmother that lived with us for a period of time, and she was not the sweet, cuddly grandma. And so I really didn't have a role model. But fortunately, it came very naturally to me. And I took on this role as this loving, doting, spoiling grandma. At the same time, it's got an edge to it of I'm following my son and daughter-in-law's rules. They joke that I don't follow their rules, but I follow their rules to the T. My grandkids are not eating nothing but candy and ice cream when they come to see me, but they get the love and attention and affection they need from the grandma. But I'm making sure that they're also being raised in a way by me when I have responsibility for them in a way that's thoughtful and appreciative of where they are and who they are, and directive in a sense of saying, is that the right thing you want to do? Really think about that. I'm able to impart my values to them because I'm part of their tribe.
Right.
And I am a badass. I mean, I was a Marine and all that stuff, stood on the skids of a helicopter and fired a machine gun. So they kind of went together and I just owned it.
Nice. Nice. So as a person who has studied and worked with victims of human violence, and you're named one of the happiest people on the planet, what's your secret sauce as you work in this environment to keep happiness at the forefront of your life?
Do you have enough time for me to tell a short story?
Absolutely.
Okay. I mentioned earlier about my history as a survivor of child abuse and teen sexual assaults and the PTSD that followed. Well, we believe very firmly that, our bodies are affected by what's in our mind. And over about the time I started dealing with all of the abuse in 1990, I also was diagnosed within a very short period of time with lupus and scleroderma, which are
Okay.
two very serious autoimmune conditions that are life threatening and very debilitating. And I lived off and on with a lupus and scleroderma for over the years. But in 2000, I became so debilitated that I had to go up and down the stairs on my hands and knees. I couldn't have lifted a full glass of water. I had trouble turning doorknobs and holding hairbrushes. I looked like a 90-year-old woman. I was bent over and my joints were huge and I was in so much pain, Tammy,
Huh.
so much pain, constant pain. And I hobbled around like that for a couple of years. And then my doctor told me that my heart was failing and that I was going to die at any time. And I was terrified and curled up into a miserable ball and waited to die.
Mm.
And then I got the chance to meet privately with a spiritual master. And
Hmm.
I hobbled up to his door and I poured out my tale of woe and I waited for him to shower me with much deserved sympathy. And that's when I learned that lamas, he was a Tibetan lama, don't do dramas. He told me
Oh,
instead to stop feeling sorry for myself and start thinking about the happiness of other people. And I was shocked and I was offended because I couldn't take care of myself. How could I possibly take care of anybody else? Stop feeling sorry for yourself and start thinking about the happiness of other people. So I'm driving home and I'm thinking, what can I possibly do in my debilitated state when an ambulance flew by with a siren blaring? And I said a quick wish for the person inside that they would find help and healing. And I thought, well, that's easy. I can do that. So I started letting the drivers get ahead of me in line and leaving the better handicap spot for someone else, letting the mom with the crying baby go ahead of me at the grocery store. And I felt a little bit happier. And so I started to do more. I gave my cane to a woman who was struggling to walk and um, gave I in one very particularly bad incident, I stood outside a grocery store and was handing out flowers to people as they left, and they thought I was Hare Krishna, so no one would take the flowers. And when a woman finally took one of the roses out of my hand, all the petals fell off. Disaster. But anyway, I made it a daily practice to do at least one act of kindness a day because I could feel that I was getting happier. And I volunteered after Hurricane Katrina at the Red Cross, and I put inspirational notes on the driver's side door at the cancer center, and just all these little things that I did every day. Didn't cost me much of anything, if at all, in terms of time or effort or money. And I felt happier because what had happened is I reached a point where I was so filled with gratitude for my life that it no longer mattered whether I was sick or well or even living or dying. I was reconnected with my humanity and that of others. And I saw that everyone was fighting a hard battle and that my efforts could improve their lives just as they were improving mine as I did these acts of kindness. So my heart healed and my body followed. And within
wow.
18 months of doing these acts of kindness, my condition went into remission. And I
Wow.
feel better today than I felt 34 years ago when I was first told when I first contracted the illnesses, and 22 years ago when they told me I was going to die at any time. Take that, doctor.
Right?
And so I learned the secret to a happy life, and that is recognizing that everyone wants to be happy just like we do, doing whatever I can in my power to make them happy, as according to the way they see it, not the way I see it, but according to what makes them happy. And the gratitude and generosity are just the key to everything. If you are generous with others, it does come back to you a thousandfold. And if you have gratitude for what's in your life, it just expands. And so I figured out the secret to a happy life. And then when Marcy Shimoff wrote her book, Happy for No Reason, she named me one of the Happy 100 people.
Wow.
Yeah. And I just feel like life is I never dreamed I could have a life as beautiful as what I have. I am so fortunate. I am so blessed. And there are challenges. There are moments where it's like, oh God, what am I doing? And then I think, hey, that's nothing. That's nothing. And I move on, readjust my attitude, pivot, and move on.
Right? It's amazing. Like, I feel like probably half the speakers that I listen to or the podcast or anything, so much of it goes back to gratitude.
Mhm.
And I find that phenomenal. When years ago I came across some research And I was looking on what makes a young person feel confident and happy with themselves. And the research was, if you give a young person a gift, their self-esteem and self-worth goes up for about 2 hours. If that young person does something like helps a person in a wheelchair cross the street, it goes up for on average 2 weeks,
Wow.
right? And so
Yes.
when I'm teaching these national programs that I teach, and we're actually preparing one today on positive emotions, and it is just phenomenal when I'm like, if you think you want to skip the community service, if you think you want to do everything for the kids, you're denying them to become a happy person.
Yes. Yes. It's that selflessness. I mean, people, you can go too far with it and become a martyr.
Mhm.
And I've been down that road where I was doing too much. And this is before the acts of kindness thing, but where I was doing too much for other people, but it was an ego thing on my part. You know what I mean? My ego
Yeah.
was involved. And so it was really unhealthy. So you can be miserly or you can go overboard. And people worry about one of the people that we forget to take care of is ourselves. And that really applies to women, especially. They feel like they're being selfish, but I coined a new term that works much better for me, and it's self-fullness, Full, self-fullness with
Ooh.
a capital S, where it's not selfish to take care of yourself. It's the best thing you can do for yourself. You have to love yourself more than you love anybody else, even your grandkids, because you are a divine being just as they are. And if you don't recognize what a divine being you are, you can't be your authentic self. And if you're not your authentic self, you really can't give and love the way you are capable of.
Absolutely. Oh, what great wisdom.
Thanks.
So, CJ, I found you as a courageous person, which is obviously why I invited you on this podcast, because we always talk about courageous people and how they're lighting their corner of the world. So, how do you define courage, and why does courage matter?
Start with courage matters because without it, you can't live an authentic life.
Mm,
You will be at the whim of other people's beliefs about who you are and who you should be and how you should be behaving, and you won't be happy. You won't be free. So if you don't have the courage to be able to stand in your power and claim it as your own and not abdicate your power to somebody else, then you don't live a happy, authentic life.
mm,
And I think that's really what courage comes down to. It's speaking your truth, even when your voice is trembling, even when you're petrified, even when you're afraid they won't like or love you or employ you anymore, even when you're afraid they're going to hurt you. Speaking your truth in a way that is kind but firm and value and honors your boundaries and your values, and doing it even when you feel like you're going to just faint from fear.
mhm. Wow. And do you have a definition of courage that you like or follow?
Uh, just feeling the fear and doing it anyway.
Yeah.
But basically what I just said, but in a simpler form.
Right. Right.
What's your definition?
My definition changed. My right? It was from a podcast guest, and actually my whole new book, The Playbook of Courage, is totally based off that moment because it
Can't wait
was
to
so
hear this.
life-changing. Yeah. And so my definition of courage is when you're traveling down the road and you hit the Y in the road, and you can take the road to fear, or you can take the road to faith. You can take the worry road, or you can take the courageous road, and you choose to take the courageous road, because either way, you're going to the unknown.
That's very true. That's powerful. So when is this book coming out?
2025 is my goal. So I know I'm doing, I just told you, when kind of our preview talk, that I have a retreat coming up. And so my speech, The Playbook of Courage, is when I am launching that speech.
Oh, wow. And that takes courage too.
Right? Taking some
Yeah, it
deep
does.
breaths. So, but yeah,
Congratulations. That's a big deal.
yeah, I went with a book. Uh, he's a slush pile reader, and getting some advice back on what I needed to do and things like that. And when I told him the playbook of courage, he goes, "Oh, that's interesting." I'm like, "I think I have something here."
Sounds like it needs a companion workbook too.
Right. And when you were talking about the online courses, that's when I'm like, "Oh, Tammy, like I think you just like downloaded a great thing that I probably need to put together to go with it." And then when you
Reach
talked
a
about
lot
doing the
more
one
people.
for youth, I'm like, oh my, because I want to do so my youth edition to this is then to be the playbook of courage, be your own hero.
I'm taking the hero theme as well in mine. That's very interesting.
So I am super excited. And I'm super excited that I'll have a place to send the kids to because I love the kids' online programs. And for me, my gift is in-person teaching to kids. And
Mhm.
so I know it's going to be an in-person teaching for me. So I'm excited that there'll be great partners like you that I'm like, all right, go to CJ now that you've heard me, or however that works. So
You're
anyway.
good in person. You'll be good on video too for an online course. I tell you, it's an expanded, you can reach so many more people with your message. And gosh, I'm so proud of you for writing your book. I'm so proud for you because a lot of people talk about it and they don't do it because they're afraid that, who am I to say, to put my voice out there? Who am I to think that I could say it better than Tony Robbins said it or somebody else? And one of my favorite quotes, which I'm going to paraphrase, is how silent the woods would be if only the best birds sang. How
Oh.
silent the woods would be if only the best birds sang. And that quote gave me courage to put my voice out there because someone will hear your words and your voice and be absolutely awed and stricken, just like you were by that story when your guest mentioned it, in a way that wouldn't come across the same way for me.
Mhm.
Your voice is going to resonate with your tribe, and they'll hear it and they'll be touched.
I have the goosebumps going on. I love these moments. I love these moments. So with that, because you have just sparked a great happiness in me. Thank you for that. What spark do you want to be in the world, CJ?
The spark I want to be in the world is a beacon of hope that you can break the generational cycle of violence. I did it for my family, for my immediate family, for my sons. I had to get away from my entire family for 11 years to be able to protect my kids from people in the family who were not safe. And I paid very, very dearly for that. But I kept my kids safe. And my son is raising his children to be safe. And so I broke that cycle. And so I want my spark to be a beacon that others can see and say, I too can stop the cycle of violence in my family.
Wow. I know a adult who left their family behind, and they left their family behind in their early teen years because they learned about breaking the cycle of abuse. And so they figured out a way to leave that family. And I think it's probably the hardest thing they've ever done in their life. But once you know better, hopefully you have the courage to do better.
Yeah.
And, our families are our identity, especially at young ages.
Yeah. And I
So,
reconcile with a lot of my family, but not all of them. And I have a relationship with them, but it's kind of a, this thing of okay, you come this close, but no closer.
mhm.
Just because I don't want to get caught up in that tractor beam, that toxic tractor beam. I don't want to get sucked into that anymore. And so
Mhm.
I don't.
Wow, that's awesome. So, what will be better in the world because CJ was here?
My grandkids, I think. I think my grandkids will be better because I was in their lives. I think that, hmm, I hope that there are a lot of kids whose lives will be better, who will never even know my name, who will never even, I mean, when we do the work we do, Tammy, the ripples go out and we never see where they land. It could be 5 generations from now. Somebody's life is different because of something they learned in my book today or something they heard you say. Their life is different because their ancestors paid attention. and took an action and made a choice. And so I hope that the ripples go on in a positive way.
It's that family legacy. Like, we know that our initial identity is formed within our family and the values and things that we learned, the sayings. Our Nebraska way of saying wash, or at least in my family, is wash.
Wash.
And so, like, that's a big deal, right? We can all laugh about it. And that same thing is going to happen with you, and what you're doing is these people are going to be passing along these lessons that are just going to be very powerful in, number one, avoiding some really crappy situations, dealing with really crappy situations, and then being their best person. That's so cool. So cool. So you talked a little bit about like your online course and books and everything coming up. What's next, CJ? What's next?
I'll never retire. I know that. My son's after me to retire all the time. I'm like, why? I have so much to do. I think a kid's video game, a kind of a choose your own adventure safety video game, something that's fun and not cheesy and that's interactive, where, you know, the car comes strolling up and the guy says, I lost my puppy. Can you find my puppy? And then you get to choose, what do you do? And then here are the consequences, you know, if you do or you don't or whatever. And oh, you died. Try not you died. It won't be you died in the video. I'm sorry, that was wrong. But you know what I mean? No,
Yeah.
that's not the right answer. Choose again. And you know, learn to say no and learn to say stop and learn to speak, use your voice to stand in your power, and teaching kids that they, and parents, that they have, both of them have more power to protect them than they believe, than they even know. And doing it through things like the online courses and through the video game. And I don't know what comes after that. Just, I'm so excited. I can't wait to find out, though. The adventures are just endless.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love the idea of the video game. I think that is going to be perfect. Hopefully it'll also get more kids into your module if it's not already into the module. I see the work that you're doing. And I know as a parent, I had a hard time talking to my daughter about some things.
Me too.
And just to have that resource and to have that family ritual of the 15 minutes a day, the family meetings where you plan a vacation, and the next time you might be talking about online predators, like the way the systems that you are setting up and teaching us, in addition to what to say and how to address things, I think are super powerful. Thank you for your influence in this world.
Thank you so much, Tammy. I really appreciate it.
Is there anything else you would like to say to our audience listening?
Oh gosh, step up, you know, be the parent your child deserves. Get that parental monitoring software. I'm a brand ambassador for Bark, BARK, like a dog.
Okay.
They have the best parental monitoring software out there because it covers more than 30 social media sites, and you can get a smartphone for kids that you can turn into, just have it call 911 and you and nothing else. And then they earn their privileges to get more features on the phone, or you can take them away if they mess up, or, you know, there's a lot of different ways you can protect your kid, but probably the easiest is that parental monitoring software, because you want to know, you don't have to spy on them. You don't have to spy on your kid. Let it just run its app and do its thing and spot the inappropriate and dangerous content, and then just flag you so that you can take action. You know your kid is safe when you've got that software under your belt.
Oh, thank you for that recommendation. I think that is exactly what parents need, is tell me exactly what to do. I already have so much to figure out between what I feed them and what I clothe them and what bedtimes and all of that.
Yeah, you don't want to be scrolling through their phone every night. I mean, it's an invasion of your kid's privacy, and it's not necessary. It's just not.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for being a guest on Pass It On. I appreciate you and all that you have to give.
Tammy, thank you so much. It was delightful talking with you.
Thank you for listening and being inspired to exercise your own courage muscle. Please leave us a rating on whatever platform you are listening. For even more, you can go to www.authormyday.com. Remember, you only have this one life, this one day, so always author your day. Thanks for listening to Pass It On, connecting soul to soul.